Welcome into another episode of Shot Callers. My name is Adam White with Front Office Sports, and we're here with Ryan Musselman, Executive Vice President of Global Partnerships for Infinite Esports Entertainment. Ryan, esports is the thing, right? Everyone's talking about it. Can you just talk about the evolution of Infinite Sports Entertainment, as well as kind of your role within the company, starting when Optic was very young to where you see yourselves now as a global powerhouse in the esports space?
For sure. So when we looked at the esports landscape, there were a couple of ways you could participate. One is really from the team perspective, and you invest in a team and you scale a team, and that team participates in the surrounding ecosystem from content to competition. And when we looked at Infinite, we said, why don't we invest not only in the team side of it, but multiple teams and verticalize within those teams, so from family-friendly brands to your hardcore shooting brands. And then let's build an ecosystem around it that probably could survive with or without esports, but it's rooted in the audience and the culture of esports, and we curate it from that perspective. So when Optic was going on the financing run, and when I was the president of that organization 2 years ago, we were asking ourselves these types of questions, such as who is the right partner? We have such a rich content background and a nice global audience that's hyper engaged with everything we do. So we want to find ourselves in a position where we have a partner who understands that there's more to esports than simply competition. We can go out from behind the computer screen. There's the interactive gameplay, gameplay commentaries, the lifestyle content that can come out of it. There's so many different angles in which you can approach it. So that was our approach, and that is really brought us to a head to Infinite and investing in the ecosystem and becoming one of the staple brands there. And then I moved on from the Optic side of it to join Infinite as the SVP of Global Partnerships, and now we're driving this big ecosystem narrative, right? And it's become quite an endeavor to take on, but we think we're going to see some great things coming.
Yeah, as you as someone who sits at the head and at the top of this partnerships chain, what is it from an Infinite standpoint that you guys are looking for at partners, and what are these partners coming to you as, a lot of these CPGs, big box, blue chip brands are looking to get into that esports space? What are some of those conversations you're having? And in terms of education too, how are you trying to guide these brands into this space to make sure it's beneficial for you guys as them as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're starting to see brands ask questions such as, how do I participate in esports, not only from the perspective of where do I begin, but how do I own something that's never been done before or that's currently not owned? And so we wanted to prepare for those types of questions, but also be able to execute on them and be able to measure and really deliver on them. So part of our ecosystem approach was really saying, what is involved with esports that a brand is going to love, right? And one, of course, is the teams and the players and their engaging personalities, but the content behind it, not just like gameplay content, but there's the lifestyle, character story-driven, character art content that shows you the kind of the trials and tribulations that esports teams go through. So, we wanted to bring that to the table to talk to brands and figure out how their brand could organically be inserted into the natural rapport and communication that happens within our pro players, brands, and within the content that they're creating with the audience, right? So also from the youth and academy development perspective, right? Who are the next all-stars before she or he are the next all-stars, the event side of it. And when you start to look at all of our portfolio, a brand can actually say, oh wow, they're actually, it's not so much that they're just selling this team entity or content, but it's really the offering of the entire ecosystem. And so now we can customize never before been done campaigns that allow us to truly be inserted into the various conversations that they're having with the various audiences and demographics that are part of the whole picture.
Absolutely. Now you guys with the Houston Outlaws just had a big deal come through, T-Mobile. Can you talk about that and some of the reactions that have been? I know it was a quick forming deal, right? I think it came together in a couple weeks or so from what I've seen. So can you just talk about that deal and why T-Mobile chose the Outlaws and why you guys thought it was a good fit for the Outlaws and for the Overwatch League?
Yeah, T-Mobile was exciting. It developed over a couple of months, actually. It was, they're one of the league-wide sponsors as well. We're currently the only team officially sponsored by them. So one thing we just really loved about T-Mobile is that they're the first to really embrace esports. When you look at John Ledger and his personality that he integrates into the business world, it's quite impressive. He doesn't think like everyone else, and he's pushing the limits, right? So to have them really jump into the space and support what we're doing has been quite an exciting role with it, because we don't look at the Outlaws just as this competitive esports team. It goes back to what we were saying earlier. We create a lot of content with them. We have some of the most engaging content in the league is actually created on the Houston Outlaws channel. So it became a natural fit for us, and I think them, is because you look at our two brands and we're both pushing the edge of what we're both really good at and trying to be pioneers in new ways to have brands interact with each other. So it's quite an exciting time to see that. And then last night, actually at the game, people started to chant T-Mobile. I've never heard that happen before, especially not in esports. But when we were playing, our fans actually started to chant T-Mobile. We were performing so well, and so now the brand affinity is there already within just a couple of weeks of launching between T-Mobile and the Outlaws. I'm speechless, actually. I've watched the video clip a couple of times, and I wish I was there, right? So we need to go back and figure that out. But an exciting time for sure to see something like that.
Yeah, and that's your new pitch deck, right, for brands is, hey, look, they're gonna be chanting your name.
Here's a soundbite.
Here's the soundbite.
But I think it's a true testament to show that not only are the casual and the elite coming together in terms of the audience, but when a brand is supporting the players that they love, there's a lot of great data on that. They're actually much more enthusiastic to participate in that brand, and they're much more receptive to have brands reach out to them directly once they know that they're supporting that team and that ecosystem environment. So it's fascinating to see it actually unfold, but also mature within the esports ecosystem.
And now you've mentioned the content side of things a couple times. Content is king nowadays. You guys have distribution. You just talk about the overall advantage from an esports, pitch versus maybe like a traditional sports property or something like that. When you guys are pretty much content focused, content first, digitally native, all these different things that all these brands are looking into, you just talk about maybe that advantage that you have as an Infinite versus maybe pitching or another brand getting a pitch from a traditional sports property.
Right. Well, it gives us a chance to really express and demonstrate and show how we have a strong global reach. Right? With a traditional sports brand, a lot of it is actually circulated around the event, the arena, and coming in from the ticket sales perspective, all of the advertisements you'd see around in an open arena. But we can actually go very, very custom with it, right? And not just on video, but or live streaming, but also on the social aspect. Instagram. And it's not to say that those teams can't do it either, but that's actually part of our DNA, this digital first type culture, this mobile first type culture, which you see perpetuated from all the large tech companies in the world. We can take advantage of that and be very custom with it. And we've gotten so good at doing that, it's almost become just a natural, it's part of our natural progression of what we look to do with brands. We don't just want to slap a logo somewhere, right? It's one thing to say, sure, you got 3.3 million followers on Twitter, we want to put your logo up there. We're actually not, sure, that's part of what we'd want to do, but that's not the main thing for us, because then we're looked at from our audience, that large audience, as inorganic. We don't want to be looked at as the synthetic, right? We really care about that authentic approach because it's good for the brand and us, and so that's part of what we do in that digital first environment.
Absolutely. Now, when you talk about the online versus the offline experience, can you also talk about how the opportunity is pretty large for these brands or for any partners or just for yourselves in general to connect with these fans, and you guys have the Optic Arena coming up too, and working in something like that and getting more of these other brands involved. You just touch on the fact that esports can be both digital and experiential, where a lot of these brands are trying to spend their money and want to spend their money.
Right. Yeah, so for us, thinking about the digital side is great, and we're using the digital side to always curate, but also to parlay the digital side into those offline experiences that you're talking about. So Optic Arena, something that's attached to an event called ACON in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they have 35,000 attendees, and we're hosting more of kind of just like a festival of sorts that celebrates both esports and gaming culture in the mix that you see coming together. And so there's a lot of Fortnite that will be played. You'll see a lot of the different fighting games. We'll have all of our personalities in terms of our pro players and content creators there, so the fans will be able to come and play against them. But that offline curation is becoming more and more important as regionalization starts to curate. An example of that would be when we took our Houston Outlaws team across South Texas. So they're called the Houston Outlaws, but we also represent the cities of Austin and San Antonio. So we took them on a signing tour, all of our pro players across South Texas, and the fans were lining up, thousands of them, for sometimes 7 hours in advance, just waiting in line to meet them, get pictures, sign autographs. It becomes that moment in time experience, but you never forget it. It's that snapshot, right? And this audience is being curated to grow up and do that. It looks like the boy band thing back in the day, right? Like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys that just got off a bus. So it's incredible to see this happen with our own esports personalities.
A lot of these athletes now are coming out with their own streams. You saw obviously Drake and Juju playing Fortnite and with Ninja, and I feel like it's that kind of stuff too that's also playing into this from a fan standpoint. Like if my favorite athlete's playing, then I can play, or if he's doing this, then I can do that. I think that's a huge opportunity, and that's going to be where you see that mesh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, more and more people are looking at gaming as not just like this niche thing that people did in their basement, eating unhealthy food and drinking unhealthy drinks. And in fact, I don't even know where that came from. So I'm a millennial myself. I'm in my mid-30s, and I don't know where that truly came from, other than South Park in that episode, right? But I think people are seeing this in a much more serious light. That's allowing them to say, man, gaming is cool, it's awesome, and it's everywhere, right? So we love to see Drake tweeting out that he's going to play with Ninja. Did you see the other one about, who was it? He had to openly admit that he had carpal tunnel or couldn't play.
Oh, David Price.
Yeah,
David Price is playing too much Fortnite.
Playing too much Fortnite, right? So it's a good problem for the gaming industry,
Yeah.
and sorry, it's a bad problem for traditional sports when one of your players is unable to play or do and perform in his career because he's been so addicted to something that's happening on the gaming side. So
Yeah, and then there was, I think the Brewers were playing it on their Jumbotron the other day.
Everyone's talking about it, everyone's doing it. But the cool thing about it is you can play it on your small screen and you can play it on a Jumbotron, and it's a gratifying experience overall. And that's what gaming is bringing out, right? When I was growing up, it was multiplayer in the living room, right? And I'm cheating because I'm looking on my screen, some of my buddy's screen. They're saying, don't screen watch. Well, what I'm looking at, I can't help it, right? But it was bringing people together in the living room, and now it's bringing people together on different continents. And those experiences are not only enjoyed online, they're then shared and then tweeted about, and then it becomes this conversation that just never ends. It never gets put on the shelf and continually evolves.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think back to it. I was one of the guys who sat around with my friends and watched everyone play Madden, and you didn't think anything of it, right? Everyone's sitting there and it's fine, it's normal, we're all just buddies, and then it gets into esports, and at the beginning everyone's like, oh, that's weird. Like, why would people watch video games when for years everyone's been watching their friends play video games?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a natural extension.